And what we're gonna do is go through, we're gonna actually combine the first three sessions because they're all the same. They all go together. So she'll be talking about, brief history of herself, and everybody else will do the same. And then talk about how she trained the run, walk cycles in training and in weight training is however that falls in. Uh, we'll go through, everybody will cover those three things first. Then we'll go into the next subject. When we get through, we'll have the battered husband to deal with the frustrations and all that of all the things that go wrong during a 200. And unfortunately, the two people with chaos crewing that we're going to come down to talk, they've had all their flights canceled and they can't get here. And so we're going to try to do I think we can do a Zoom meeting with them. And so we'll be showing that and you can ask questions. It's the same as all. So we're going to get started with Ashley, who does not have her buckle on,
I know.
but she has one. So go right ahead.
Picture voucher for it. It's a great picture, by the way. Yeah, my name's Ashley, and I am natively from California. Moved here with my family 7 years ago. About as tall as that kid I lived over there. So we kind of lived all over, but where I found trail running because we lived here actually. We lived near Rockmore Mountain, and then I kind of fell in love with the trail and then started running with people who run here locally, and then kind of the rest is history. So I'm trying to think like history of getting into trail running is pretty intuitive. We do the road marathons and so on, and it escalates from there. But my first 100 miler was in Hody, as a lot of people around here did, and then kind of escalated from there as well. So I've done Hody and Lake Martin, Blood Rock, and then a couple like one in Ohio. Gosh, I didn't think about it all, but all over. And then up until leading into Southern states, I think David kind of mentioned as he was starting to think about the plan for this race, like potential of doing a Pinhoti 200, and I pretty much squealed like a little girl because Pinhoti is such a like important part of who I am because it's where I started trail running really. It was exciting. The summer before, I had to study Tahoe 200, which was really lovely in its own way. It had a lot of ups and downs, literally and figuratively, but it was a beautiful experience. So I came back and he mentioned this, and I just said, sign up. So as far as training, I had just finished Tahoe. So I guess if we had kind of rewound a little to my build up to that, I would say yes, incorporating some strength training. I kind of keep that as a baseline throughout my year. And then as I get closer to the race, it kind of dwindles as mileage builds up. So to get kind of specific, my strength training looks like 2 to 3 days a week in more of my off season, and then as it gets closer to the race, it kind of becomes more on a totem pole. Because it's really not quite as necessary as those miles and the hiking and all of that. But everybody's very different, and I'm sure we're going to hear everybody's scenarios are quite contrasting. And that's a lovely thing. Is what works for me might not work for you. So, I think as far as one of the questions, sorry, I don't love. Oh, I didn't realize this is all on here. This makes it a lot easier. Yeah, so I do work. I work as a exercise interventionist, so I'm mostly speaking and encouraging people with Parkinson's and MS to stay active on a regular basis, which is super rewarding. And the bonuses is so flexible, so I can do my job remotely myself and run with my not otherwise. So that's for placing that for there. So my husband's also a cyclist, so we were just talking about the schedule. But otherwise, that's kind of where we're at as far as training. Gosh, yeah, as far as training, if I kind of took it into like 3 sections, I would have like a bit of a build-up section of like kind of getting my feet back into my rhythm. So like let's see here. If I were to say what April was the race, probably December Blood Rock and recovery. And then January it was like time to start building up again. And then I was really focusing just on getting my time on my feet back, getting comfortable. And then I'm trying to think that after that it's a little bit more like specificity towards the race itself. Like what is the terrain like? Where am I needing to get my miles in? Like maybe less road than anything. It's more like, okay, I need to be out in the mountains. I need to spend a lot of time on my feet. I tend to get more specific the closer we get towards it. Like what do I need to see on terrain wise? And as you guys know, it's going to be mostly like on this trail. I still do some road stuff for convenience, sometimes to get the miles in. But I would say like my peak couple weeks were like 50 miles. It's not anything like exorbitant, it's just needing a lot of time back to back. So I did do like a couple of trainings here this weekend, and I think that that was probably the thing that benefited me the most. Was like I'm going out there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and getting in as many miles as I can. And a lot of that isn't fast. It's not glamorous. It's getting your hiking in. It's getting your nutrition dialed in. Trying to find out foods that you like and that you don't like. It's playing with Gaia and like kind of getting familiar. So sometimes I would be out there at Oak Mountain, because Bruckner is really familiar for me. So Oak Mountain, I'm like trying to complete it. Like I'm trying to figure out where I'm at. Playing with the app. So if I'm like, I'm not really certain where I'm, let's look at this. Let's play with the app itself. And I think that's really helpful. It's a really intuitive app. You haven't used it, but I think it's helpful for that confidence of like, if I'm confused, if I'm lost, I know how to find it. Um, and then play with foods, like trying new things, eating stuff that you might not normally eat, looking a lot more like whole foods and like gels and glues, which are great. But I've been less irritated from like plowing through. I think that it's good to eat a lot more like whole foods at those times so you can like fill your body. But again, it's very specific to each person. So that's kind of what I did as far as training and build up. Hiking was incorporated for sure, but a lot of that was based off of the terrain. I would just try to get out there and get some big climbing in and like know that I'd be hiking a lot of that. But I didn't do a lot of like quote unquote like this is only a hike. And I do think that's really important, but I think a lot of it just happened naturally in freedom. So um that's kind of my truth. So I don't think I have much more to share. 'Cause I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of other stuff, but yeah, I think it's good to have. Yeah.
So to go ahead and ask, does anybody have any questions? We can go ahead and do that right
Yeah.
now, or?
Or still the explain exercises that you working on.
Yeah, pretty good question. A lot of like lower body, obviously. Like core strengthening would be probably um more specific. I would do a lot of like single leg like squats and like the individual legs. So you're kind of doing a lot of movements, a lot of hopping around rocks, roots, things like that. If y'all know the trails are married. So it's good to have like sort of a balanced posture in that way. It's just general squats, nothing super fancy, a lot of like glute and core exercises. Um, so like glute lifts like that. Um, even I did have an extra pair of shoes. I don't believe I used them though. I had road shoes that stayed in the pack. I've overpacked. I think I've gotten a lot better over the years though. Like Tahoe, I think I brought literally every matrix I own. And then I realized it almost became a nuisance because you just don't know where everything is. Matt can explain this further, but he's really, really good about organizing. Like I had coats and he knew where everything was. So he would offer it, and say like you need shoes and whatnot. I think I had a very like identical pair of shoes. I'm a Nike girl, so they were the Nike Zagamas, and I loved them. They were great. They were cushiony and really good with the strength. But I never really had to change them. I didn't get wet. I didn't really have the need to, but I did change my socks. very, very often. So I would say in the beginning more often, and then as it got later, I was better about like, it's okay, they're clean, they're fresh. But I would say like, the one thing I was probably the most neurotic about, would have been changing those socks, especially in the beginning, because it can be really detrimental long term. But I can dive in more into that later too.
By the way, you do, actually, as James was speaking first, because they won Southern States last year. I figured they heard, right? And I made an error a while ago. I said we're talking about crew, when we talk about the battered husbands and wives. Heather, she'll see when Bob starts talking, has probably crewed more hours than like they're put together. Because Bob has run ridiculous number of races, and she's always there. Anyway, so James is next.
Are we speaking on one subject at a time?
What's that?
Are we doing one subject at a time?
It's the same thing, just all the first three, go
Oh,
over.
just the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, James.
And again, first overall.
So, I got into, running from cycling. I got into cycling in my early thirties to lose weight. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, and it's working out all right. So training, like I said, I'm a big fan of back-to-back long run, learn to run on powered legs. And how you think you're gonna sleep there, we'll talk about later, is how you should sleep, I think, at least a couple of times between those long runs. So that you get a feel for what will and won't work for you, right? I also like doing a long bike ride, like on Friday, back-to-back long run. And then, again, learning how to move one of my powered legs, counts for a lot. I don't do much strength training. I'm really bad about incorporating that because when I do, I usually lift light, squats, calf raises, that kind of stuff. And then we talk about walking and hiking. You see how prepared I am. So I pace a little different. I try to stick to run what's runnable, and I run comfortably. And so run what's runnable doesn't just mean that you need to run flats and downhill. It means don't run the early up. Right? You're just burning matches that you need later, in my opinion. Technical flats. And if it doesn't feel good running it, just because you're making good time, an opportunity to take fall last year. So, and everybody's different, right? What is runnable will change through a race. Everybody who's done 100 knows. That general grade at the beginning of the race, you go flying up it. At mile 90, you probably hiked it. But I find, I listen to myself and I try to run the pace, and that pace will change. I think that's all I have on training, weightlifting, and running. These are all my questions for me. Yes, ma'am.
Are you trying with your phone?
Absolutely. So, hey, that brings me to this.
Oh.
I brought some visual aids. I don't need this one yet. All right. Yes. All your long runs. You wear your pack, wear your gear. And if you're going to be in it for 200 miles, you need to know what does and doesn't work. This was my first race with required gear. And so something that was very difficult for me going into it was figuring out how to pack that stuff. So when I settled on it, well, we're 12 for me, and we all want to figure out how you're going to do it. Long sleeve shirt, absolutely put it in a bag. You need it. You don't want it to be wet, gross, and of no help. Everything else that was on that list, with the exception of the water filter, is there in case you need for self-rescue or you're in a bad place. It's not a comfort item. You have to go to it. So pack it up, get it out of your way, don't be digging through things you don't need. when I sell them. Exception is your water filter. This is, I can get you guys the brains. This is the water filter you need. And the reason I say that, not because it's any better than any other, but it fits the standard 500 milliliter soft flask thread. You don't have to carry an extra bag, you don't have to use a hand pump, you just put it on one of your water pumps. It is, and I use this quite a few times to do it. I don't know what your experience was, but there were some hot sections and there are a lot of creeks, especially when you get to Talladega National. The rest of your required gear, you know, your phone, put it out of your way. I use my watch for the map, so I didn't need to check in with it. Struggle to remember what else was on. But these items, you know, they were the things I had a hard time figuring out. Pack, try stuff, run around with it for 20 miles, and then figure out why you didn't. I think you had something.
I was gonna ask, actually, for both of you, actually, like, what kind of mental preparation, I'll compete.
So I'll let you, I pulled a couple of quotes, or I heard some advice early in run. That speak to that, and I think. I went and I looked them up because I think that they're really important. And you all can go and get the original stuff. One was an article, Pride and Performance, April 21, Ultra Running Magazine, Gary Cantrell. And he said that in ultra running, we have a tendency to talk about what went wrong and to make it about persevering through rather than taking pride in your performance. You don't see basketball stars or golfers talk about, I would have won the game, but sliced that, you know, that drive, buff the basket, right? Free throw. That it's about results, and they find the ways, the things that they can do that will get them. And in running, we talk about, no, I lost 3 toenails. I threw up the last 20 miles, otherwise I would have PR'd the race, right? And because that attitude is important, being able to persevere is what gets you to the finish, but you need to focus on preparation and on the result. And then, well, that's more perfect. But go in it knowing for me, you know, I got my brother and my dad out in the woods running around for 2 days. Right? Am I gonna get to mile 1 and we decide, I don't wanna do this anymore, this sucks. You know, you have those low spots. And for me, I mean, I got a lot of other people that are sacrificing their time, their money, because they won't always let me give them gas money or whatnot, you know. I had 4 people pacing me that had come out to run part of this with me, and so I think remembering that, you know, you came out here because you wanted to do it for a reason. Not every step was going to be fun, and you knew that. And so, if things are bad, don't worry, they'll get better. Things are good, don't worry, they'll get worse.
Yeah, I say the same, in that, I think somebody mentioned like run the mile you're in. And I think that like if you run 100, you felt this way where you're like, I'm never gonna get out of this flow. But if you just trust that and remember that it will get better, and again, it will get worse. But you're out here for like the bad too, because otherwise we wouldn't sign up. We thought it was gonna be fun the whole time. It should be. You want to have fun and go.
Next. Bob Waters, you notice he has his buckle on also. So,
Yes, buckle that, right side up. Right side up. We'll cover it up when we get to the finish line. Don't wear your buckle upside down. I did both. The left handed. I think I like ultra running or running at all. I didn't start running till I was 45. just athletic most of my life in various things, but, running wasn't one of, yeah, not outside of just a couple of miles here and there for whatever purpose. Um, uh, Started running, the straight trail, I've been a hiker before, so trail is my enjoyment, I sit out in the woods. And, I started, slow, I guess, until I jumped right in. Went to a running group and, fell in love with the whole atmosphere of it. First race was, up at Cheetah, um, 15K, I think it was, and then said, I'm gonna do a 50K, so the 50K, and that was pretty grueling. But, and Hody 100 was my goal race, and I'd heard about it. So from the day I started running until the day I did in Hody was about 15 months. And still, when you go into injuries and stuff like that, again, but not being able to really finish that race like I wanted to, struggling to get across the finish line and then having to be carried off because I couldn't walk afterwards. But it didn't stop me from continuing because it just gets in your blood. Yes. So yeah, I've done about 30 hundreds. Southern States was my second 200 mile. First one was about 2 years prior. I had been wanting to do a 200 miler for some time. And, with my kids' ages, uh, family life, wasn't the right time to do the 200, so put that off until kids got older and first 200 miler that was when I was 45. And it was the double top Stone Animal over in Georgia. Yeah. That was a race in the third year, and at that point, when I had finished, I took a lot of pride in being able to finish that like first finisher. Got finished after me, so we actually had two finishers. I think the Tenhogue Trail Slam, I think James mentioned that we did that in 22. Yeah, we did. 2016, I think was the first time I did that, and back then it was a 3 race series. And yeah, races have changed a little bit over the years as far as some of the courses have changed a little bit. Some have even changed dates and such, but that's something worthwhile if you're in this general area to be able to see a lot of trails. Just training for 100 mile, 200 mile, very similar, as Tim said. Ideally, it is back to back, but with age, that gets a little hard, especially with injury. My first 200 miler, I'd already had a back surgery in 2017. So recovering from that, it's really a year to 2 years before you get back to anywhere close to what we're doing. And just training wise, back to back is something that was very important for that first 200 miler. And for me, a long run is not as long as a lot of people. I'll do 15 miles and I might get 2 days back 15 miles. That's pretty good. Typical high mileage week for me is around 35 miles. 3 days a week, sometimes 4. When we came to Southern State, I had had a second back surgery and I couldn't do back to back. The doctor had told me, you know, if you feel any back pain, just lay that aside before you do anything again. So there were weeks where I just could not train more than. But leading up to it, I had done, I think, 200 milers between my first 200 miler and my second 200. And that was not ideal, but it felt. I was recovering from, I believe it was Blood Rock 100 that I did before Southern State. And that race was kind of hard. Very good. My son beat me by about 3 hours.
I have to say something here of the family at Blood Rock this year also. Where did you come here? No, you didn't run, you crewed this time. Larkin was third overall in the 100. The daughter, Hannah, was first in the 25K. So they obviously had a good influence there. But it's been fun watching them because when they were like this big and just watching them each year grow and develop and improve that's one of the best parts about putting on races this year. And over the years, there's been a number of families, we've watched the kids come up and do amazing things. So we imagine what that does.
And they want to run, we're not running.
And Heather is always there.
Yeah, this training for Southern States was a lot different than I did, but I don't think I had a single back-to-back run that I did. I was able to work my mileage up decently. Did some 50Ks as training Mountain Mist and Constable in January, and GR 50Ks in February, and in March I did a 30-mile run. It allocated outside of that, I think in January I had 2 weeks where I had 2 runs a week. So it was like 120 miles for the month. I topped out at I think 150 miles and February. So that's my highest in March. Just dropped that down about 130 a week. And then let myself recover and for the race. I was thinking of the week, 2 weeks before my last long run, I was down 80 miles, and then kind of tapered down. I think we started on a Friday, so and Tuesday was probably my last run, about 4 miles. So being healthy going into the race is very important. Not being sore. That anybody that ran that race will tell you that it started out pretty fast. You're starting on a paved road, and it's nice and gentle, and you slowly start going uphill. I think that first few miles, outside of 3 people that took off, everybody else was kind of back at about a 9:30. They were on the strength training. When I first started running, I did some strength training for running, but outside that first year, I don't really do any strength training. My running is my training. I train like I'm gonna run. James said I do short 3-mile run. I've got my pack on, loaded. Every time I go out, I'm wearing that pack. Well, almost. There's few occasions I'll just carry it. I didn't do as James said, as far as which I should have done, which was load my pack up. I did that one time. Load the pack up with all the required gear, and I don't know how he got it in there. To be honest, it's like. Just the electronic portion, having the battery charge, cable. Water fill, keep that water fill going. That first stretch, we started at noon. Yeah, we started at noon and it's like a 15-mile stretch. I think it's hot as it was. There were several people that ran out of water. That first stretch, you came out of first aid station to dehydrate. I was one of them because I still had that much water. Literally less than an ounce of water I had. And I started with extra water. I had a bladder full of 2 bottles. I drank out of drink. uh, that's the third thing. And the mental. Um, you gotta have that mental attitude going in that you're not gonna stop. Right? Mentally, if you go into that race thing, there's any possibility you're gonna drop outside of injury. It's too easy to say, I'm tired, I wanna stop. So, don't let that be your thought at all. When you, one of those things, if I'm tired, if I feel like I don't want to continue, lay down, man. I'm a big proponent of taking their gas on the church. That many times. That I think it's all about good way already. I'll just use the word you want to know. Keep that in your mind. And there'll be plenty of surprises along the way. Never know what kind of ATV party is going to be going on. No. There's other things I could say, which I have forgotten, and maybe they'll come up. Questions, all those things, or it's just, I mean, you can tell if you've had back surgery before, you really got a desire to run, if you do it. And, but there's no doctor that will tell you, you know, it's between. First, they told me I never run it. Say it, anything else you think. I want to piggyback back on something you said about train like right? Right? That also means for us last week. Sometimes people go out, they do all their training runs early in the morning during the summer. Then you see them out at a race falling out. This, I think it'll probably be much colder. Well, the night was fall out, it's the coldest part. So I would also suggest get out there, check your cold weather again. All that stuff. Worthwhile activity. And I've always been on it. If you're planning on doing a run, it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, whatever, go be done. That's the race. It's what it is. I know a lot of neighbors races, Lake Martin has had some horrendous weather. The first year of the 100, it rained. Rain leading up to the start of that race, up to about 20 minutes before the start. The trails were just flooded. So most of the first 12, 18 hours just tromping through water. And then a couple of years ago, the hailstorm that hit it toward the end of the race. You come all that water, whether the weather gets you down. I certainly don't come. Even if it, I don't enough under a tree for water.
Thank you, Bob.
I think this is good timing since the food has arrived.
Shall we eat?